Atheist Roundtable Live. The Atheist Roundtable.
The Atheist Roundtable.
Hey, good morning and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. I'm Pasta Mike, and turn up, as they say. The cool kids say turn up. Normalizing atheism. Look, Oz put this show together. I can't take any credit for this. Although I put Oz together. That's right. I dressed the guy. But look, Oz has got a show coming up tonight. Normalizing atheism. We're going to set the record straight. We got some new content creators coming on. It's a plethora or a smorgasbord of talent. We're going to capitalize on this event. So stay tuned. We got a whole shit ton of atheism and lack of belief coming up. The Atheist Roundtable. Hey, again, good morning and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. It's Tart in the morning. Jesus in the morning. You beep out the morning or the Jesus? I don't fucking know. God damn it. Look, Oz has put together a fucking banger. You say banger? God damn it. Oz has put together a hell of a show. Look, we got a whole bunch of young Earth creationists coming on the show to wrestle in some jello. And they've allowed us to film it. Oh, hang on. Hang on a second. That's not the show? Oh, that's not the show. I'm sorry, that's not the show. So Oz has got together a group of brand new small accounts that are under a ton, under a K, I believe. That's what he's telling me. So we got new content creators coming on the show tonight to highlight what they're doing for the secular humanist community. What more can we do? I mean, come on, guys. New accounts. My favorite, I'm going to be biased here. My favorite account, Jesus Unfollower, Kevin. Fucking beast. He should have 10K right now. Not more than 10K though, because that'd be fucking greedy. But he should have 10K. He should. Let's get him up there, guys. He's almost at a K right now, so let's get Kevin up there. That's the Jesus Unfollower. Get on over to his channel. Smash that like. Smash that subscribe. That account is underrated, man. I love that guy. He's got some fantastic content. But we got a fucking killer show, so tonight, let's get on it. Smash that bell. Atheist Roundtable has a bell, believe it or not, so smash that fucking bell. Fuck, God damn it, bell. That fucking bell. Smash it. Because if you miss the bell, then the normalized turn up, it starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. It runs through to about 11:30. We're probably going to run through till about 11:30 a.m. the following morning. Knowing Oz and myself, because we run a little bit. We're a little bit long. Oz is a mythicist, so they tend to go a little bit long. So anyway, Heart.live, the Atheist Roundtable. The Atheist Roundtable. That Oz do be looking sexy, though. So I took some pictures of Oz lately. So he's like, hey, Pasta, you do some good photography? I was like, yeah, I do some good photography. I'm a fucking professional photographer. I'm a professional atheist photographer. And he's like, hey, hook me up. I want to be sitting at a bar with my arms crossed where you can see my tats. And hey, good morning and welcome. And I was like, hey, good morning and welcome. And he's like, yeah. Hey, good morning and welcome. Yeah. And I was like, hey, good morning and welcome. And he's like, dude, how do you do that? I was like, I'm a ventriloquist as well. So he's at the moment, he's overwhelmed with my skill set. I'm multi-talented in the atheist department, basically. So I think I'm going to be on this show tonight. I think I'm going to highlight my talents tonight. Fuck this. Fuck these newcomers. God damn it. God damn it. I'm always late with that goddamn button. That's right. The CEO of Mythology. Fucking Oz. Ozzy. I'm going to tell you right now. Ozzy, the CEO of Mythology. The dude just won't accept any claims of any Jesus. Right? Any man named Jesus that walked around in the Iron Age. He's not having it. He's not having it. So if these guys that come on the show tonight, these new content creators, any of them that mythicists, Oz is gonna be eyeing them up, because although Oz is putting out that he's an advocate for this new atheist movement, you don't want none of this smoke, some of this competition. You don't want any of this competition. If he sees some of this competition come his way, these new feisty mythicists, claw's gonna come out. And Oz has got one of those one of his pinky nails is long because he used to do coke. He never lost the pinky nail. It's got like nail varnish on it. He'll scratch your fucking eyes out with it. I swear to God. God damn it. He's got the atheist claw. That's what he calls it. I was like, oh, what's up with your pinky nail? He's like, that's the atheist claw, dog. I was like, okay, all right, man. Don't scratch me. Vicious. But anyway, back to the show tonight. Turn Up. Oz is so tastefully named it Turn Up. Normalizing atheism. New faces, new voices, new channels. 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are out there and you're looking for channels to follow, again, I'm going to throw this out there. If you're not following Jesus Unfollower, get your ass on over to his channel right now. Drop what you're doing. Get over there and follow his channel. Dude's a beast. But we're going to get a bunch of folks on tonight. We're just going to let them talk. Probably going to do some sound checks first, though, because some of these folks, these new channels, they might not have the right mics and shit, you know? They might not be, probably going to roast them as well. You know, a little bit of hazing. We can haze, right? Oz, can we haze? We'll have to haze? I don't know. I'm going to haze. Definitely going to haze. You can't just walk on in and get subs, you know what I'm saying? You got to earn them subs, dude. Damn it. Oh, okay. Joan fitting to use her hands. Joan fitting to get nasty with the hands. Dutch Joan. All right, Joan. Look, Joan, if you can throw hands, let us know. So Joan is noon over there in Deutschland. Haze him and praise him. That's right. Hey, just want to shout out to Oz. He's been lifting weights and dude getting swole, getting swole with it. And if you don't know, now you know. Oz be getting swole, with it. Straight yoke for the Lord. Anyway, 9 o'clock Eastern time. I expect everybody, all the followers, all the Jesus unfollowers, to come on over to the TART, the Atheist Roundtable live show tonight. Your boy Oz Ozzy, your boy Pasta Mike, and the whole goddamn crew. Oh, I'm fucking late with that thing. God damn it. The whole crew will be here. And if you haven't found a new channel, if you're like, I'm sick of Tart, you know, you guys are representing atheism too well, or some of y'all are just a little bit too handsome or too pretty. I don't care which, you know, tomato. Or some of y'all are got beautiful singing voices, because we sometimes like to hit that falsetto. At the end of the day, we don't mind if you follow some of these other channels. We're going to put it out there for you. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be our freebie, just, you know, for you guys. And that's what it's all about. I think I came up with this term, cross-pollination. I think I coined that phrase many months ago, and Oz stole it from me. But yeah, cross-pollination is what it's all about. God damn it. God fucking damn it. Anyway, don't forget to go over to www.tart.live. Jump in the DMs, because we've also got some debate championship coming up. This debate championship is going to be hot because we get some money. We get some prize money. I got 5 on it. I got about 250 on it. I don't know. Oz is dropping some donuts in there, so we got some money on it. We get some prizes. We get some fun. So it's going to be atheist against atheist, theist against theist, Scientologist against gynecologist. We got all kind of things going on in this debate, man. A whole bunch of shit. I think Oz going to debate his aunt Kathy coming on the debate. She getting feisty. Oh, Kathy getting hot up in the paint. March 20th, the UDC. That's right. That UDC. That's Uniform Delta Charlie. Roger that. Oh, Doorknob Head in the house. What up, Doorknob Head? Oh, Dutch Joan. That's right. You know, she's right though. Deutschland is Germany. She ain't kidding. But she said she gonna get feisty with them hands, Doorknob Head. So don't be talking shit up in here, because Dutch Joan will literally go upside your head. Hey, look, Doorknob Head said, who is up at this time except security guards and pimps? Hey, ain't nothing but killers and dillers up at this time, bro. That's it. It's killers and dillers when the lights go down. Oz and Pasta, we love us. No, we legit lovers, like the both of us. We love each other. God damn it. Oz, I can't. He said I can't get a foot rub if I talk shit over the airwaves. So sorry, bro. Sorry. Keep going, Oz. That's right. Appreciate that, bro. Oh, Native Atheist is a pimp. He's a legitimate pimp. So Native Atheist is an actual pimp. Like the dude is a pimp. Dude straight pimp. So I'm not even asking any more questions. Motherfucker is a pimp. Dude a pimp though. So this track's gonna go out to Native Atheist then. Here you go, bro. It's for you. And these tracks are paid for, YouTube, so don't be demonetizing. This is from the Artlist website. $300 for the whole entire year, license paid. So don't be stingy. This track is called On Top, and I can't pronounce who it's written by. I think Oz Ghost wrote on this one. He's born from the belly of the beast. Grew up a winner. I never lose, only learn a lesson. I'm a mutant master splinter, past the finish. Oh, he's talking about the Ninja Turtles now. I gotta switch it. Sorry, bro. But thank you for tuning into the Atheist Roundtable live show. If it ain't my favorite passive-aggressive commenter, Grumpy Old Cuss. I think it's about time we did a name change on Grumpy to Passive-Aggressive Old Cuss. Hell yeah. Let's change it up. Let's get a change. I think you can change your name once every 60 days on YouTube, maybe, I think it's every 60 days. Ask Oz. I think he changes his name once every 30. I think he's got a deal with YouTube. Every 30 days he gets to change his name. All right. Well, thank you everybody that joined in to the quick little shitty little live feed here that was supposed to throw Oz under the bus a little bit. Just tickle him as he slipped under the bus and promote Oz's wonderful show that he put together for tonight. Look, hopefully we can get Grumpy and Mama Bear on this show, because the show is designed to highlight and promote all the new content creators for the secular humanism and just the secular community in general. If you're in the skeptic community and you're putting out content and you're under a K, we want you on the channel so you can get your shit out there, because I think we're at like 220,000 now. 2 million. I think we're at 2 million. So we're such a huge channel, and we're like dwarfing everyone else. We're trying to push the envelope out there. So if you want to come on, just get your asses on. You know what I'm saying? God damn it. God fucking shit. God damn it, Oz. Watch my ingrown toenail, dog. Oz got them little. Oz got, let me try and describe it for you guys. So Oz has got like little fat crab hands. They're short, but they're quite powerful and strong. So when he like goes into the ball of your foot, when he's giving you a foot massage, he doesn't know his own strength, man. He really doesn't. Short pincer type hands, like little crab pincers. Now he's going to roll his eyes. I got it. Okay, it's all right. Sorry, bro. Crabs definitely have hands. They do. Yep, I give them dap all the time. All right, folks. Oh, shit. Here we go. What's this? What's this all about? What's this going on? Hold on a second here. All right. All right, folks. This is it right here. This is it. We're coming to a close, because apparently Oz has got to get some sleep, and he just rubbed about 6 corns off the heel of my foot. I think he got a bunion too. So, but anyway, look what we got here tonight, Feb 20th. Heart presents Turn Up, Normalize Atheism. Talked about that for the past 25 minutes, so you should get what that is. All right, so after that, we got the call-in show, Monday night call-in show. Hopefully we'll have Nate Dogg back with us, the Silver Fox. The like if Jay Leno and George Clooney were in like a hot air balloon accident and they fell to the ground from about 25 foot and they kind of melded together. That's Nate. That's Nate Dogg. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, shit. Jesus is a myth. Is Jesus a myth? Panel discussion, February 27th. I think that could answer a lot of questions for us folks who were curious to know if Jesus is a myth or not. Tune in, guys, 9 p.m. Oh, March 1st. Heart Live call-in show. I'm not going to lie, a little bit biased about that. Just a little bit biased with that one. Oh, God damn it. T-Jump. So T-Jump's gracing us with his presence on March 6th. Matt Adams, T-Jump, debate night. So Oz puts together fantastic debate nights. So join us 9 p.m. on Saturday, March 6th. The Jumpster. I don't know. I heard some rumors. He might be standing up. He might be actually getting out of his chair for this one. Don't quote me. Oh, another. Hold on a second. Don't you flirt with me, Tart website. Call-in show again, March 8th. Don't mind if I do. Wait a second. March 15th, back-to-back Mondays? Call-in shows? How did my pants just fall off? Hey, Oz, get out of here, you rascal. 2 Mondays back-to-back call-in shows? I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to get a bubble bath after this. Just got hot in here. March 20th, the Ultimate Debate Championship. Hold on. Saturday, March 20th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. From Tart Studios, the Ultimate Debate Championship. The winner walks away with a whole bunch of cash on a gift card, probably a Visa card. I don't know. We have no preference. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, who cares? As long as you get the cash. Can you prove your point in a debate is the criteria. That's it. And the rest will be entertainment and exploitism. God damn it. Is somebody playing tricks on me? Look how many call-in shows are going on. Call-in show. Just let's do a separate website just for a call-in show, and let's get like a calendar of like just pictures of me and Oz holding each other. Come on, dude. Every Monday, every single month, 9:15 p.m. to 11:15 p.m. Heart Live call-in show. Sounds good to me. Sign me up. Tuesday, March 23rd, Oz appears on The Perspective on Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist. That's Ethan Michael, everybody, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Just an hour. Just only an hour. That's all Oz is worth. Just 1 hour. To be honest, I'd get him off at 8:30. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, so we're just gonna have call-in shows all the way through. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here, all the way to. Oh, it stops in September. So apparently, folks, the call-in show is gonna stop in September. Aw, this is a shame. No more call-in shows after September. Looks like I'll start. I'll probably put in my resume to some other atheist channels around August, a 30-day notice. See if they'll take me, And I'll probably continue I'll probably call it something else. I'll call it like the Pasta Mike Call This Number show on like the Empathetic Atheist channel, or maybe I'll go with the Neil to 604. I don't know. Depends if they got something good going on over there. Who knows? Oh shit. I may even start. Hey, look, rumors had it that myself and Tangelo Grasso were going to start up a channel. It's going to be like a atheist Christian dating channel. It's going to be like remember Blind Date back in the day? Only picture it with me and Tangelo, and there's no other guests, and just the two of us make out for an hour. It's going to be so good. Such a great show. It's going to be a great show. It'll be PG-13 stuff though. So nothing like, if it can be in the movies, it'll be on the channel. Nothing over the top. You can probably get it in Redbox. So if you go to like your local grocery store, you can probably get this show there. Because Tangelo's in it. And you're going to be able to presuppose he's going to kiss me before it happens. That's the kind of show it's going to be. It's going to be great. It's a fun show. Anyone else want to show? No? Yeah, that's right. You better get some extra chapstick. Get some of that Carmex stuff, Petangelo, because it's got a little and sprinkle a little cinnamon on it for a little kick. It's gonna get very atheist in there, in that room. Yeah, strawberry flavor Carmex. I don't know if they have that, but we can make some. We can make it happen. Well, I've been Pasta Mike, and this is the Atheist Roundtable. Thanks again for joining us. Petangelo, we appreciate you stopping by. Unfortunately, we weren't talking about God this time. Just remember, folks, that the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. That's right. It's from my good buddy, Socrates, my good drinking buddy, college buddy, good friends with Socrates. Yeah, so just remember that. When you're down, when you're having a bad day, when you're walking through town and you bump into a couple of theists and they're like, blah, 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 God. And you're like, man, these are some grown folks right here. Some grown ass men talking about the book of Acts or some shit like that. Just think to yourself, Socrates. It'll get you through the day. It will. It's a good thing. It's like aspirin, only with intelligence. It's pretty cool. It's a cool thing to do. To play that game sometimes. Much love. You guys take care.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was daydreaming. Paris syndrome is a term used to describe a condition that is often experienced among Japanese tourists in particular, when they go to Paris expecting it to be the trip of their dreams, only to realize that it doesn't measure up. The shock from their unmet expectations can even lead to symptoms such as depersonalization, anxiety, hallucinations, and more. Now, when looking at confounding factors, you have to account for exhaustion and other variables, and Paris syndrome is not yet in the DSM, which means it either hasn't been reviewed by a committee or it doesn't meet the requirements. But anyway, I like it as an analogy. For any newcomers, I'm an atheist. So as some of you know, I grew up in the church, or when I was at school, it was called chapel. And I thought that when I was going to church, I was being taught the Bible, which much of the time was true. But something dawned on me when I was in college. I was also being marketed to. I started to really question the church culture around me when I was working as an intern for a mega church. And my boss suggested to me that I put the prettiest girls on greeting teams so that when guys came to the church, their first impression was cute women. So basically, he was trying to use sex appeal to market Jesus? And don't worry, for the Christians watching, you're not all like that. I wasn't either. But let's talk about it. My boss at the time was really into using marketing to lure people into the church because he had read Andy Stanley's book Deep and Wide, which suggests that you use the surrounding culture to make church interesting and communicate in a way that people can understand. And I'm all for communicating in a way that people can understand and making things interesting. I try to make weird thumbnails to get people's attention, and I need marketing to get people to hear some ideas that I find important. But does God need marketing? At the time, I was more on the side of David Platt's book Radical, which suggests that the church should be giving as much money as possible to the poor instead of the pastor. I believed in a more humble approach, and I didn't really see how having a 50-foot cross in the courtyard was more important than helping the needy. I was told all of my life that God wanted me to share the gospel, so I felt like it was my calling to become a missionary. And then one day when I was expressing some frustration and desperation that I might not be able to go and do missions work to save all the orphans, a pastor rebuked me and told me God didn't need me. I was also realizing as an adult that my life didn't really match up to what I was told it was going to be in church growing up. In weekly chapels, I was told how God was going to bless my life if I followed him. But then when I faced some real hardships, I realized that real life wasn't meeting my expectations. And then I thought maybe I had misinterpreted what God's real plan was, seeing that many verses were saying you're actually going to suffer your entire life for the sake of God's kingdom, and maybe God will reward you in heaven. So how do we tell the difference between marketing and manipulation? Does God really only speak through people? And thus, does he need marketing, or is he capable of speaking on his own? And where does false advertising fit into all of this? And what marketing strategies do churches use? And what does that say about God? And who invented marketing strategies, God or people? So first we have to ask, what is marketing? Marketing is the process of identifying, anticipating, and satisfying needs and desires. Like I said before, there's nothing wrong with it in business or using marketing to bring attention to ideas, but if God moves through the Holy Spirit, why would the church need marketing strategies? I'm not saying that everything that I list from here on out is always intentional, but let's use the 4 Ps to examine Christian church marketing. The 4 Ps are product, the gospel, place, the church. This could mean Bible study or whatever platform they use. Price. I'm confused about the price here. Is it your behavior or a belief? It's really tricky to answer what price God is asking, because John 3:16 says that it's the belief that God is asking for. But James 2 insinuates that you don't actually believe if it's not exhibited in your actions. So I'm going to say that the price is altering your behavior because beliefs influence behavior. And the last P is promotion. This takes place primarily through network marketing, people telling other people around them about the product. Now, of course, people don't call sharing the gospel networking. They call it sharing their testimony. And testimonies are considered anecdotal evidence. And anecdotal evidence is fine. We didn't always have replicable scientific studies available to us. So we've operated off of anecdotal evidence for most of our history. But the danger of anecdotal evidence is that people can give it more weight than it should have. For example, when you see weight loss testimonies and then later find long-term studies that conclude that the product that they were promoting made people sick, or that they didn't actually lose any extra weight from using the product, but just maintained a sufficient calorie deficit. When I would hear testimonies in church, people would usually talk about finding God in a vulnerable place. Then they would claim that they felt better once they gave their life over to Christ, but didn't take into account the other psychological reasons that they might feel a certain way. Could it be that they got a better social support network, or started making goals and achieving them, or unlearning learned helplessness? Maybe they started finally receiving words of affirmation. And people tend to do better when they feel a sense of purpose. So one could ask, did God make things this way intentionally, or did humans discover spirituality because of these subjective experiences? Appealing to attractiveness bias. Things that are aesthetically pleasing often indicate that they are good, beneficial, or safe. And the churches I worked for heavily invested in this. Set design, pamphlets, massive decorations. Which again is fine. except confusing when your whole message is about giving up earthly possessions for a heavenly inheritance. Or is it? It depends which of the many denominations you ask. And this ambiguity explains why my boss and I had very different ideas about how we should be spending the money brought in from tithing. Adopting trends and culture made sense when I thought about meeting people where they were at, but I was convinced that we were called to be not of this world. And I started to wonder what would be left if we took down all the embellishments. As an atheist and science lover, I see that attractiveness bias most likely developed from wanting to avoid disease throughout the process of our evolution. You know, things that don't look too icky are probably safe, and we're compelled to want to survive and seek safety. And our inclination to maintain safety is the reason that people make investments on perceived risk. The message of the gospel plays into this. The Bible teaches that people are at risk of hell and that a lack of belief will lead to depravity, but I already addressed that a few videos ago. Only focusing on the threat of hell seems like framing, because I have yet to hear a pastor validate the risk of being wrong during an altar call. They offer you a relationship with Jesus, but a relationship where doubts are never valid is a mentally abusive relationship. If your religion is true, religious people should portray atheist arguments with intellectual honesty, and there should be no need for straw men or silencing. Altar calls. Where in the Bible does it say that people should make snap decisions about this? They're pitched as a limited time offer. Do you know that if you died today, you wouldn't go to hell? Is accepting the message supposed to be based on an emotional decision or facts? I personally think we should aim to empathize with emotions and make decisions based on facts. And if it's not supposed to be an emotional decision, if it's supposed to be a decision based on facts, why is there always a keys progression playing? Incentive. If it's just an option and not a hard sell, what is the deal with heaven and hell? Also, this limited time only pitch sounds like a gaslighting car salesman. If you don't buy this, you're really going to pay the price. I swear the threat of hell is just operating off of FOMO. It's not that God wants to torture you with his wrath. Like, if you don't want to come to the party, like, you just don't have to come. But people want safety. We find all kinds of ways to feel safe. And it gives us a competitive advantage when we have numbers on our side. So we tend to follow the beliefs and behaviors of those around us. This is why we're susceptible to the bandwagon effect. Things look safer to us when a lot of people are on board with them, which is why it's so hard when you have a new channel on YouTube. There is no bandwagon to make your channel seem appealing, but I don't want people to subscribe because other people are doing it. I want them to subscribe because I make good content. No? Okay. Well, if that doesn't work, how about I try the mirror exposure effect? Coca-Cola is famous or infamous for using this technique. Something can seem good or beneficial or true because it's familiar. We are creatures of habit after all. And I'm reminded of when I was told over and over to read the Bible daily, attend church regularly, and be yoked with like-minded people. Okay, I'm just going to read these next two marketing techniques to you and let you make the connection. Foot in the door technique. The foot in the door technique is a compliance tactic that aims at getting a person to agree to a large request by having them agree to a modest request first. The technique works by creating a connection between the person asking for a request and the person being asked. If a smaller request is granted, then the person who is agreeing feels like they are obligated to keep agreeing with larger requests. This technique works by creating a connection between the person asking for a request and the person being asked. If a smaller request is granted, then the person who is agreeing feels like they are obligated to keep agreeing to larger requests to stay consistent with the original decision of agreeing. The door in the face technique. The door in the face technique is a compliance method commonly studied in social psychology. The persuader attempts to convince the respondent to comply by making a large request that the respondent most likely will turn down, much like a metaphorical slamming of a door in the persuader's face. The respondent is then more likely to agree to a second and more reasonable request than if that same request is made in isolation. Then there's the IKEA effect. When people make investments in things like building IKEA furniture, they become more attached to the brand. So if you invest in the church financially or spend time and energy building up the church in some way, you're more likely to hold a bias towards it. Availability heuristic. Where are you getting the information that's shaping your worldview? What about the information you have on the atheist worldview? Are you getting your information from pastors or atheists? Are you getting your information from people with the same worldview or all kinds of sources? Good critical thinkers are always trying to find their blind spots and ask, what haven't I considered? Bias makes people selective with where they get their information. So I'm skeptical of studies I hear cited by vegans or straight up carnivores, because people often pay special attention to the science that supports the view they already hold and ignore information that doesn't validate their interests, which is why I feel vegans' best bet is in their moral argument. Like when my friend told me what it's really like when baby cows are taken away from their mother for milk. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to know that. And then 6 months ago, I heard Cosmic Skeptic give a really compelling speech on veganism. But I was like, this is not a cult. I'm not going to just go ahead and do everything that Alex says. I mean, he's my Hitchens. He's not my Jesus. That's Hemant Mehta. Someone didn't like my video? Help me, Hemant Mehta. And then I did a video on the history of a group of people that ignored cruelty for the sake of short-sighted self-interest. And I was like, oh, wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, marketing. And the last thing that I'll bring up that is a marketing technique at best, but doesn't make something true, is survivorship bias. Concentrating on the people who have maintained their Christian beliefs happily and disregarding the people who find it to be an unhealthy experience. Because there are reasons why it might work for one person and not someone else, besides a measure of faith or the condition of their heart. This is also especially prevalent at MLM conferences, because I'm just going to piss everyone off today. I'm not doing this to be mean. I'll explain everything in my next video. But should you be selling peppermint to your small group, or would Jesus be flipping tables? And is prayer as much of a placebo as essential oils? So I ask you, are your expectations lining up with reality? And if not, why? Is it because you're entitled and sinful, or is it because we have the cognitive ability to plan ahead? And sometimes we're given unrealistic ideas. And have you gotten unrealistic ideas from the church? What haven't you considered? This is actually really good. I loved that. That was like, that was 10 times better than I expected. I wish I bought two.
Hi there, Physically Debunked here. Whether or not a God exists is of huge importance to how we should live our lives. If you're going to mold your entire lifestyle around a particular belief, you'd better have a good reason for believing it. So with this in mind, what is the best reason, the best argument in favor of God's existence? Different people will have different arguments that they think are the best, or some people may think that all the arguments are so bad that none of them deserve to be called the best. In any case, today I'll be looking at the argument that Cameron Bertuzzi of Capturing Christianity thinks is the best argument for God's existence. Could this argument provide a sufficient reason to believe in such a life-altering religion? Let's find out.
In your opinion, what is the best argument for God's existence?
Yeah, so this is a personal question for me, because about well, about a year ago at this point, I was going through some serious doubts about God's existence, the arguments for God, and I wasn't really sure that there was a good argument for God's existence. And I came across the work of a guy named Joshua Rasmussen, who I've had on my channel a bunch. And I found out that he has a version of the argument from contingency that is really, really strong. And to me, it's rationally unassailable. Like, you can't get past it. It's just that good.
Rationally unassailable. Now, this is a bit of a tangent, but something that bugs me quite a lot about apologists is their certainty. If you take a look at the paper Cosmological Arguments from Contingency by Joshua Rasmussen, the guy that Bertuzzi is crediting with this contingency argument, you'll find that throughout the paper there are all sorts of reasonable objections to the various ingredients that make up contingency arguments. And this is the nature of honest academia. It's rare that anything is ever rationally unassailable, and it's rare that there aren't a wide variety of possible explanations for any particular observation. Even if you think the contingency argument is strong, it's nowhere near rationally unassailable.
And so the basic idea, he starts out with a puzzle. So everything in our experience is a dependent thing. It depends on something else for its existence. You and me are dependent objects. We depend on something else for existence, our parents. This microphone depended on something else for its existence, the cameras, the lights. Everything we come in contact with on a regular basis is a dependent thing.
So the argument starts by talking about dependent things, or contingent things, and that everything we see in our day-to-day experience are these dependent things. Dependent things are objects whose existence has to be explained. If something is dependent, then it could have been the case that that thing might not have existed. So, if something dependent exists, then there needs to be an explanation for why that thing does exist when it could not have. That most things we see around us are dependent is generally accepted in philosophy. Ordinary objects like tables and chairs and biological organisms like you and me are all dependent things. It's conceivable that they might not have existed, and so an explanation is needed for why they do. Your existence is in part explained by the existence of your parents, and the existence of your computer is in part explained by the existence of companies like Microsoft or Apple. The purpose of this setup is to distinguish between two things: dependent things and necessary things. Dependent things are those that depend upon something else for their existence. Necessary things, however, are self-supporting. They explain their own existence. In this way, we can separate everything that exists into these two categories: dependent things and necessary things. This is a standard construction in metaphysics and is extremely useful in the philosophy of modality. This doesn't mean, however, that there isn't a huge amount of controversy about these concepts, especially when applied to arguments such as the contingency argument. The first problem with this classification is that we simply have no way of knowing what things are necessary and what things are dependent. You can't look at an object and deduce whether it exists dependently or necessarily. In physics, we can perform experiments to measure the charge or mass of a fundamental particle, but there's no experiment or measurement you can do to deduce whether something is dependent or necessary. All we have to categorize these things is our intuition. We look at an object and wonder how plausible it is that it might not have existed. If we think that there's a strong possibility that that thing might not have existed, then we say that that thing is dependent. On this basis, most philosophers will happily agree that your existence and the existence of the iPhone are dependent. But what about more fundamental things? Are the fundamental particles that make up the universe necessary or dependent? What about the quantum fields that produce them? What about the laws of physics? What about the entire universe? People may try and classify these things as necessary or dependent, but it's all just opinion. There's no way to objectively determine which of these things are necessary and which are dependent.
But here's the puzzle. So imagine that all of reality fits inside my little phone here. Everything that exists in this phone. There can't be an outside explanation that explains all of reality, if that's what this is, right? We're just pretending. So there can't be an outside explanation of everything that exists. But the puzzle arises because everything in our experience is dependent. But you can't get an independent reality, something that has no outside explanation, by just adding up dependent things.
This is exactly what I've been talking about. How do you know that everything we see in our experience is dependent? This is certainly not something that everyone agrees on. Sure, most people will agree that all the macroscopic objects that we see in our day-to-day lives, tables, books, chairs, beds, are all dependent things. But what about all the other things I previously mentioned? How do we know that the fundamental particles that make up the universe aren't necessary? How do we know that the space-time that we inhabit doesn't exist necessarily? Most importantly, how can you have any idea whether or not the universe, the entire universe, is necessary or not? This assertion that every entity in our experience is dependent seems to be a central premise of this argument. But it's such a controversial claim. I certainly wouldn't agree with it.
So the idea, though, is that we have this puzzle. Everything in our experience is dependent. All of reality is independent.
Is it the case that our universe is independent? As I've mentioned several times in other videos, we currently have little idea about whether there's anything existing beyond the Big Bang of our universe. It could be the case that we exist in a multiverse, or there could be some features of our current universe which are relics from previous ones. We simply don't know enough at this stage to say that our universe is totally independent and the sum total of physical reality.
So the idea, though, is that we have this puzzle. Everything in our experience is dependent. All of reality is independent. So how do we square these two? How do we get past that? And the answer that Josh Rasmussen gives is that we have to posit a necessary foundation at the foundation of reality, or a necessary thing at the foundation of reality that explains all dependent reality.
Now, I do broadly agree with the logic here. If you accept that dependent things require an explanation for their existence, then there's no way you could have an entire reality made up solely of dependent things. If this were the case, then there would be nothing that could explain why the things in that reality existed. There has to be at least one necessary entity, something that couldn't have failed to exist, to explain why all the dependent things exist. I agree with the argument that the existence of dependent things requires the existence of something necessary, but there are two problems with using this argument as an argument for the existence of God. For a start, it's not obvious that this argument applies to our universe at all. This argument is only a problem for a reality in which everything that existed was dependent. But we have no idea whether this is the case for our universe. We have no objective way to determine what things are necessary and what things are dependent. So how do we know that there's nothing in our universe that is necessary? It could be the case that the fundamental particles or fundamental entities that make up the universe exist necessarily. Secondly, even if everything in our universe was dependent, I see no reason at all why this argument should lead to the existence of the personal God of theism. The one example we have of something that some people would call necessary is mathematics. Now, it's very controversial whether mathematics can be said to exist at all, but most philosophers are agreed that mathematical truths are necessary in that they explain themselves. If you're willing to admit the possibility that mathematics can be said to exist, then why invent a new necessary entity to explain the universe's existence when we've already got one? Physicist Max Tegmark is the main proponent of what is known as the mathematical universe hypothesis, which says that everything in reality is just a mathematical structure. If this were true, then mathematics would be the necessary entity upon which everything dependent stood. For me, the contingency argument presented leads much more to Max Tegmark's mathematical universe hypothesis than it does to the existence of a divine mind. But I wouldn't start saying that this argument has logically unassailably proved that the mathematical universe hypothesis is true. To conclude then, far from being rationally unassailable, I see very little merit in this argument from contingency. While I agree that the existence of dependent things requires the existence of necessary things, I don't see this as a good reason for the existence of God. Using this to argue that God exists assumes that there is nothing in our entire universe which is necessary. But this seems to be a massive claim when we have no way of determining whether something is necessary or dependent. Being based on such an unverifiable categorization means that this argument has very little obvious relevance to our universe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more philosophy, atheism, physics, and stuff.
Hello there. Let's do part 2 of lies your politician tells you, other than basically everything that comes out of their mouth. The first and most annoying one that you'll ever hear a politician go into is, my opponent cut whatever program is popular, or my opponent won't cut whatever program is unpopular amongst their constituency. And very rarely will you ever see a politician actually make cuts to the spending of a program. It happens, rarely, but there's an old adage of there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. However, one of the main things that when they tell you that somebody either made cuts or refuses to make cuts, what they're usually talking about, and I'm going to say usually like 80 to 90% of the time, is the cuts that they're talking about that were made or not made are to the growth of said spending program. So if last year they spent $1 million on program A, and this year they're set to spend $1,100,000 on that program, and the politician decides that no, they don't need that. They're only going to spend $1,050,000 on that program. Then they're going to come out and say that program was cut. And the reason it's misleading, and I think it's intentionally, so I'm going to call it a lie, is those cuts are meant to make you feel like that spending went from $1 million to less than $1 million, instead of cutting the actual, just the growth of that spending. And to be frankly honest with you, it's very misleading for the general public to consume that little bit of rhetoric that goes into that. So now you know that when a politician will tell you that something got cut, or they're looking to cut a program, or that a program was not cut, or we need to increase the spending, the increasing the spending is actually more than the projected increase already baked into the 10-year budget that the CBO puts out. It's if you think about it, you can tell what the image and the emotional response they're trying to get from you versus what's actually happening. And they can claim that they weren't actually lying because they're like, well, we just meant they're cutting the growth of a program or whatever. And it's like, no, you were trying to get people fearful that a cut in Social Security was being made. No one in their right mind is actually going to take Social Security spending and lower it. What they're going to do is they're going to do everything they can to try and control the growth of said spending. Same with Medicare, same with Medicaid, same with every other program. And expense management is a good thing. We want people to be a little bit hawkish on how money is spent. So now you know better, and now you can look at your politicians a little bit more differently when they tell you that your favorite program is being cut, or that a program you think is stupid is not being cut. So thanks a bunch. We'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome to all of you beautiful and intrigued human beings. I am Leo Filius, Leo on the shorthand, and in this video I'd like to provide a brief introduction to the kind of content you can expect to find on my channel. I will be focusing on science education and science communication with an emphasis on topics such as astrophysics, cosmology, and quantum mechanics. Now, I would like to throw out there that I am not a professional in any of these fields. I do not have any formal education or any degrees in any of these fields, but having studied them quite closely over the last roughly 10 years, I feel that I am equipped with the knowledge necessary to be capable of parsing out the finer details of these fields in a way that is palatable for a lay audience. Over that 10-year period, I have read numerous books, watched numerous lectures, all by professionals, as well as having sat down and engaged face to face with many of these professionals. Over that same period, I have also been on numerous platforms and engaged with numerous individuals of numerous different backgrounds. And something that I have discovered along that journey is that there is actually quite a bit of misinformation that is out there about these fields and about some of the more advanced aspects of them. And there are a lot of misconceptions that many people have about various aspects of these fields. It is my goal to try to, as I said earlier, parse out those finer details in a way that you people can walk away feeling that you confidently understand what these subjects are, what these details of these subjects are in an accurate way, and maybe you can go on and educate other people in these things and correct misconceptions where you see them. I will not be focusing so much on creationism busting, as that is something that numerous other individuals within this particular community on YouTube are already engaged in, and I do feel that many of them, if not most of them, are already well equipped, much more than I am, to handle that. You will find some creationism busting here, but don't expect to find too much of it. You can also expect to find a bit of talk on politics, left-leaning politics, as I am a market socialist and I am a proud leftist, not a liberal, a leftist, and I will be making numerous videos explaining why I hold to the political ideologies that I do, why I think that they're good ideologies to hold to, and why I think that they're better for the whole of humanity. If you're excited for the kind of content that I'm producing, if you're looking forward to seeing the content that I will be producing, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with anybody that you think might be interested, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you can be notified of all of the amazing content to come. And I leave you with the phrase, per causam nos perfectum, which is Latin for, through reason we progress. Take care, everybody.
Hello YouTubers and welcome back to my channel, Trans Atheist. This is going to be the video where I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell you everything that happened while I was part of Jehovah's Witnesses, well, most things that happened while I was part of Jehovah's Witnesses, and obviously how I came to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. Before I get started though, I do need to point out that I am a gender non-binary person. This means that I'm transgendered. I'm neither male nor female. On the gender spectrum, I would say I fit more to the female side, which is the reason I'm telling you this. Is it is important to my to the recollection that I'm going to give. So let's get jumping straight back in. I was born into the organisation of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm actually a 5th generation witness. My mother was baptized. At this point, my father wasn't. My mother and father, they divorced when I was around about 3, and I went to live with my grandmother till I was 5 or 6. It was during this time period, while living with my grandmother, that really the indoctrination from Jehovah's Witnesses started. And by the time I was 6, my family thought I was fully indoctrinated into the religion. When I was 6, my dad remarried and he got baptized. Following this, I moved in with him and my new stepmother. Up until this point, the religion had been obviously indoctrinating me very heavy into the faith. But I would say that I actually didn't have faith. I was only pretending because of everybody that I had trust in, i.e. my family, were all witnesses, and everyone that I knew, all of my friends and acquaintances within the religion, they were all wanted me to believe, obviously. So I was doing it just for them. Obviously, if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, if you've been one or you know someone who's left or is one, you may be aware that you're not allowed friends in the world, in any of these worldly friends. You're only allowed witness friends. You are allowed to interact with the world, but you're not allowed to have really anything to do with the world. So hobbies are also another thing that I wasn't allowed unless it was obviously religious based. So I was actually completely isolated within the organization. For a couple of years, I'd been secretly, well, by this point, for a couple of years, I'd been secretly feeling strange in myself, I'd say. I didn't know exactly what was different about me, but I didn't feel right with the clothes I was wearing, with with the way people were talking to me as a male. So I started experimenting with my gender identity. At first, this was wearing female clothing in private, walking around handbag and high heels, maybe a skirt. And I found that this was, helping me. But obviously, being so well isolated within the religion, private wasn't really a thing. So I started wearing underwear, female underwear, underneath my male clothing. And this seemed to make me feel a little bit more comfortable in myself and my everyday life. So I continued doing that. At this point, my stepmother, well, she'd been a lifelong witness. She was fully baptized, and she was very strong in the religion. She was also extremely strict. She liked children doing all of the work for her. She didn't like doing anything herself, including picking up a remote control from the TV from the table while she was watching TV. So I was very busy in the religion. I was also very busy at home with chores and work. She was also very violent person. If something wasn't done her way, the way that she would do it, then, or wasn't done quick enough for her, or wasn't, just whatever issue she had with it, she liked to use her hands to beat. So I was very fearful of her. She was also a very controlling person. She used religion to cement her control over people. So much so that her entire family, even her father, was really scared of her. So the fear factor was a massive thing by this point. Obviously there was a bit of violence, and there was mental conditioning, mental degradation that she used. But really, the sexual abuse, this didn't start until a little bit later, and this wasn't until she found my stash of female underwear. This was when I was around about 8 when she found this. And let's just say she wasn't very happy. Well, she beat me and then proceeded to tell me that she would teach me how to be a proper man from now on. Well, this started with her taking me into the bathroom and making me look at, well, firstly porn, and then eventually making me look at her vagina. In total, abuse lasted till I was 16. But it did evolve. And this evolved into eventually making me eat and suck on the gusset of a dirty underwear, and eventually evolved into full fellatio. Over the years, I was so scared and so ashamed by the events that had happened that coming out about it, well, it was pretty much impossible to come out about it at that point. And after, by the time I was 11, through this abuse, she had controlled me so much that she actually forced me into getting baptized at the age of 11, which, in my opinion, is way too young. No one should be doing anything like making an oath, a lifelong oath, at such a young age. And so obviously after that happened, the organisation, Jehovah's Witnesses, they had complete control over me. I was tied into their regime. Anyway, by the age of 16, I had a breakdown. I just couldn't take it no more. I completely retreated inside of my head. Nobody could get me to talk or do anything. So my dad, seeing how bad things had become for me, even though at this point he wasn't aware of the abuse, he tried to help me, and he arranged for me to go and live with my grandmother again. After 6 months of living with my grandmother, I was still inside my head for those 6 months. Wouldn't leave the house, wouldn't leave my room, ate very little, and drank very little, and I just wasn't me at all. But after 6 months of that, I finally built up the courage and and managed to talk to someone about it. I didn't want to talk to my grandma because I didn't want to hurt her with her finding out what was going on. And I didn't really have anybody to turn to in the world. In fact, I'd been so engulfed within the religion, I didn't even know that I could go and speak to the police or to a therapist or anything like that, because it would have been completely frowned upon by the religion if I was to do that. So I went to the elders. After speaking to the elders in the my grandma's congregation, they spoke to the elders from the congregation where it happened, and they sent down 2 elders to talk to me. Strangely, they only came down the once, and they weren't very invasive with the questions, which I was actually quite surprised at. They wanted a vague description of what had happened and nothing more. They said that they would deal with the situation. In fact, it sounded like they'd known something was going on up until this point, just hadn't done anything about it. And anyway, they went away, and 2 weeks later, I got a call from them saying that the matter had been dealt with and not to worry about it anymore. They wouldn't tell me what had been done, but at the same time, my father, who was an elder in his congregation, had been demoted. I spoke to an elder in my grandma's congregation, and he said that if they've told me the matter's been dealt with and my father's been demoted, that means that he was demoted because it was his responsibility, with her being his wife. Needless to say, I was not too happy about that decision at all. I did not feel justice had been done. I wanted her to feel the same sort of pain that I felt. I would at least feel something anyway. But in my mind, she just completely got off with it. This, again, broke me. I didn't know what to do, and eventually I got round to trying to appeal the decision. I spoke to the elders in my grandma's congregation, who helped me get in touch with the London Bethel. But nobody ever followed up on the phone call that I made to the London Bethel. And my elders told me that I should just pray to Jehovah for help, and it would all be fine. That never happened. So obviously you can imagine by this point, and I'd always been pretending to believe in the religion, and obviously by this point I was really questioning the faith, and the whole system of that organization. I was questioning everything. So I made the decision that I was going to fade out of the faith. I was going to become inactive, and I was going to start college in the hopes that it would help me move on. So I went to college, and I faded out of the religion over a matter of 6 months or so. And by the end of the college year, I had a few friends at college that that I decided that I liked and I wanted to be friends with. I'd even moved out of my grandma's house, moved in with the family of one of my college friends, and in my mind, they'd left me alone, the elders. So I'd successfully faded out of the religion. I hadn't had any call to any summons to go and see them or anything like that. So I was quite happy to move on with my life. Throughout my childhood, though, I'd been a bit of a goody two-shoes in the religion. Even though I never really believed, I've always been of the belief that if you're going to do something, you may as well do it right. And even though I didn't agree with all of the rules and regulations that Jehovah's Witnesses had, I decided that I wasn't going to, apart from, looking into my gender problems and my gender dysphoria, I decided that I wasn't going to do anything wrong against what the Bible had said or what that organization says, like sex, gambling, smoking, doing drugs, speaking out, being an apostate against the religion, that sort of thing. So I decided to just keep myself clean. But then one day, while I was living with my friend's family, there was, and this must have been about 11 o'clock at night, which is very strange. There was a loud thumping at the door. Someone was knocking. It sounded like it was the police. So my friend's mum, she opens the door, and it's the three elders. I don't know how they got the address, because I hadn't even told my grandma where I was living. I hadn't told anyone where I was living. So that's a mystery. Anyway, there was three elders at the door, and I said, "Well, we need to talk to we need to talk to the person living with you." So she calls me to the door, and I stand outside and say, "Can we just walk down the street a little bit, because I don't want my friend's family having anything to do with this." So we walk down the street a bit, and as we're walking down, we get to the end of the road. One of them grabs me by the arm, and they just march me 2 streets away into a back alley where they've parked the car. And obviously by this point, I'm very dubious about what's actually happening. I've never seen elders act like this before. Anyway, they put me into the passenger seat of this car, close the door. One of them gets into the driver's seat and 2 of them into the back, and they lock the doors, basically keeping me, captive in the car with them. They didn't want me to leave. And then they crowd their heads right round mine. Like, at this point, it's starting to feel a bit like those mob scenes where they're, kidnapping someone in a car or to have a conversation with them and cement their rule down on the person. It felt very much like that. I was very scared at this point. I didn't know. I'd never seen elders act like that before, ever. I didn't know elders could act like that. This is completely opposite to how they are with people in the religion. And they proceeded to ask me some questions. The first question they asked was about my they were starting to ask me questions about the inactivity and me fading out the religion, asking me a little bit about my beliefs and things like that. Then they asked me a question where they asked me, do I have a disassociation letter? Do I want to leave the religion? At which point I said, well, yes, I want to leave. I have written a letter. It's on my laptop. I haven't printed it out because I had no prior warning to this meeting. Otherwise, I would have had the letter for them. So I said I'd print it out, and I'd get my grandma to take it into the Kingdom Hall and give it to them. I said they were okay with that. Then they decided to pull out a folder and show me what appeared to be, firstly, they pulled out 2 records, and it appeared to be my phone number, my phone records. How they got them, I don't know. Whether they were mine or not, I don't know. But it appeared to be a list of my phone records. They then pulled out what appeared to be my internet history. Again, if it was my internet history, I don't know how they got it, but that's what it appeared to be. It was my IP address on the phone. Then they pulled out some photos of some of me in the woods, some of me in the town, and all time and dated, and also other images or pictures of some of my college acquaintances, some people that were actually on my college course that were also in those woods and also in that town, which makes sense because they live there. Anyway, they said that these people are known drug users and drug dealers, and the images clearly show that I was in the same place and the same times that they were, and that and the phone records show that my that I was ringing some of their numbers, which was true because I'd rang them about the college course. We all rang each other and discussed the things that we were learning. So it was, it was one of the ways that we helped each other learn. But they said that because these were known drug dealers and known drug users, that I must have been talking to them to take drugs and accused me of being a druggie, basically. They then pulled out another folder. And in this folder, they had what appeared to be a printout from a web page. And it appeared to be, well, it was my picture and my details on this printout. And it was of me being a male prostitute, which is absolutely absurd. I'm actually asexual because of the sexual abuse. I have no interest in sex at all. It's the only way I've been able to move on with my life, is if I decide just no sex, because it weirds me out, it freaks me out, it takes me back to those times as a child. So for me to do that is just crazy. I would never, ever, ever, ever do that. So in my mind, they have set me up. They were blackmailing me. They were trying to blackmail me into sticking in that religion. And they said, if you want to disassociate yourself, then we will disfellowship you first. And we will disfellowship you on the grounds of homosexuality, apostasy, gambling, drug use, smoking, heavy drinking. And they said, if you don't believe us, we have evidence and proof other than what we're showing you today, and we will use it in our full power if you try to appeal this disfellowshipping at all. I was totally scared and very angry at this point because of what I was seeing, and and luckily they let me out the car and said, do not come back to the meetings, do not come anywhere near your family, do not think, otherwise we will release all of this to your family, and we will tell them exactly what you are supposed to have done. So they were blackmailing me with my family, so I couldn't appeal it or anything. I also had absolutely no evidence that any of this because I was young. This was This was years ago. There wasn't all of the GoPro cameras and hidden camera devices and things like that. And they give me no warning, so I couldn't even take a phone out to record anything. I had no knowledge that it was a complete surprise. So obviously after that they announced I'm disfellowshipped. They didn't tell my family anything because I didn't do anything about it. And I decided, you know what, enough's enough. So I went to the police to get my abuser done for what she had done to me as a child. I thought, you know what, no more goody two shoes. I'm gonna go and speak to the police. I don't care what the elders, think about it. So I did. I spoke to the police. They, 2 detectives came down from the constabulary that where it had happened and where she still lives. They came down and a number of different times. I think it was 5 or 6 times they came down over the course of 3 months. They were always very positive. They were always very supportive with with me. They were very positive in the sense that they, after investigating it a little bit and speaking to different people who would have known me at the time, they decided to arrest her and interview her. They actually kept her in there for a number of days. Actually, it was longer than the time period that they have before they have to release them if they have no evidence. So obviously they had collected evidence. They came down on the last time and they said that there's an extremely good chance of this, of her getting done. It will definitely go to court, and they've spoken with the CPS and everything, and it's all going to go through, no problem. And will I be willing to testify in court, because there's a lot of evidence and they need a good testimony to go along with that. Obviously I said I would, as long as I had the right amount of support, obviously. And then 2 weeks later they came back down and they said, let me remember now, something along the lines of that they'd made a mistake. They wasn't as much evidence as they thought there was, and in fact there's nothing they can do anymore, and they're very sorry, but it didn't sound right anywhere. What they were saying was basically they were making a U-turn and the case was just being thrown out. So again, there was nothing I could do. I've tried to think over and over again why they would be so positive and then just make a complete U-turn. But no, so I'm thinking it was Jehovah's Witnesses paying off the courts to throw the case away, basically, or something along those lines. Someone somewhere has done something to make them suddenly U-turn like that. So the whole thing was dropped, and absolutely nothing I could do. This absolutely destroyed me. After everything that I'd been through, everything that had happened, all of the turmoil and the depression and the breakdowns, well, it broke me. And for years, I've been developing mental health problems that have just been getting worse and worse. And my family's still in that religion, and I can't come out about what I've said, what happened. And while I didn't want them to be hurt. I didn't want the religion to hurt them and punish them if I do something. But for years I've just been suffering and suffering and suffering in silence. I've had major drug problems. I've had major alcohol problems. I've had any chance of higher education or holding down a job or anything. It's just, I've had all of that just taken away from me. They've taken my, firstly, they took my innocence away from me as a child, and now I've had my life destroyed by them. I've had major issues with self-harm. I've tried committing suicide on numerous occasions. And not only me, not only have I suffered, my entire family has been ripped to pieces, because this is not the first time this has happened to members of my family. I didn't know until after I left Jehovah's Witnesses, but these other members of my family that aren't witnesses, that I didn't even know existed, that have gone through similar sorts of things and had their lives destroyed too. So Jehovah's Witnesses, in my mind, because this doesn't just happen in my area, this happens worldwide. This happens with every branch around the world. Every country that has Jehovah's Witnesses has this issue. This organization is destroying people, is destroying families with its rules, its regulations, its indoctrination, its failure to protect children, and its insistence on protecting paedophiles. And so this organization needs to be taken apart. It needs this. It's not a religion, it's a cult, and it needs to be dealt with. Anyway, that's my story. That's what's happened to me. That's how I came to leave the religion as well. Obviously, there is more to the story. I didn't want to go fully into the story, and my reason, and I'm going to do another video, maybe filling in some of the gaps in the story. I'm not quite sure yet, because some of it would be going very in depth into the abuse, and some of it is very, very painful for me. But I will be doing another video on the reasons why I'm an atheist, why, after all of the indoctrination, I felt that it was all false. I'm also going to be doing a series of videos on the reasons in scientific reasons, that is, as to why there is no need for God, or God doesn't exist. And that will be research that I've done into the field of neuroscience, anthropological research that I've done, psychological reasons, research into psychology that I've done, and also chemistry, physics, and biological reasons as well. That will be a series of videos, because it will be going very in depth into all of the research that scientists have done into these different fields. And I'll be pulling out some points that I think are very important and very interesting, especially in being able to debate science or religion, specifically religion, with a religious person. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I haven't bored you or gone on too long, or this might actually have to be split into 2 videos. I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look on the time that I've been here. I've been talking for quite a while now. Anyway, so if you have enjoyed it and you like the idea of where I'm going to be taking my channel, please subscribe. Please leave any thoughts that you have as well. Any questions you may have, I'm more than willing to answer. And if there's any particular subjects that you would like me to discuss, whether it be religious or scientific, or just something about me personally, like gender dysphoria and things like that, then please do leave a comment or email me, and I will maybe do a video, or if not a video, I will definitely get back to you. So thank you very much, everybody, and I hope to see you again.
Greetings, sentient beings. I thank you for taking the time to check out my channel. One night many years ago, I watched a blizzard raging outside my window. That window was 3 layers of tempered glass with argon gas as an insulator between each layer. I heard the wind rage and watched a tree branch snap under the weight of the snow and the stress of the wind. Having had a point in my life when I had been previously homeless, I felt very grateful that I could feel secure that my family would be safe and warm through the night, no matter how bad the storm got. Introspections that night resulted in the poem at the end of this piece, and later to the short essay I present here. So I asked the kind traveler to consider this. Virtually every religion and human culture has a celebration of light near this time of year. That begs the question, why is this so universal, even across groups of humans who had no contact with each other? It is because at its root, this is one holiday that was not arbitrarily created. This is not a random date on the calendar. Clearly, different cultures and tribes dedicated it to different deities. But even if you believe in no deity at all, there is a natural event here which pulls at our most basic instincts. The winter solstice, also known as Yule, falls on December 21st. This is the longest night of the year. In its most basic form, this holiday is just an observance of the seasons changing because of the position and tilt of our planet relative to the sun. Even before our ancestors understood why this was happening, they realized this marked the night when the world begins to climb out of the darkness. The new day would be slightly longer than the day before it, and each day beyond would grow with slightly more daylight. Until our current calendar was adopted, this was the night celebrated as the birth of the new year. I think that much of why people are now confused about this, about the meaning of this holiday, is that our modern society, with all its conveniences, has insulated us, even isolated us, from the world as our ancestors experienced it. Try to imagine yourself living as our ancestors did, say 1,000 years ago. There was no electricity, no light bulbs or flashlights. At best, they had a small number of candles they made themselves from rendering animal fat. They did not live in the type of houses we know. Families huddled together for warmth in drafty one-room huts. The floors were mud, and the only insulation was the snow on the roof, which produced constant drips inside as it melted. The garage where you keep your car would seem luxurious by comparison. Any village with more than about 100 people would have been called a city. You knew everyone by name and were probably related to all of them within a couple of generations. We also knew it was unlikely we would all survive the winter. Odds were strong that some in the village would succumb to the cold and weather and not have the strength to hold on until spring. Even if by some miracle all our people survived, how many of our animals could we keep alive? Would there be enough feed for the cows? Would there be enough food for us that we would not have to eat the last milk cow? If on the winter solstice, more than half of the food you had stored was still intact, then you could begin to believe that your family would not starve before spring came. 1,000 years ago, we all lived with death as a certainty. It was just a matter of who and how many would perish this winter. So on the longest night of the year, the time of greatest darkness, we celebrate light and life. For our ancestors, this was nothing less than a defiance of death. With blazing fires, they declared they would not let the darkness take them. With torches to drive back the shadows and voices raised in song, they marched from house to house, those having a bit extra sharing it with those who were running short. This is where the tradition of staying awake all night on New Year's Eve came from. If you could stay awake all night on the longest night of the year, you could do it at any time. Staying awake not just until midnight, they had no clocks to measure the hours at night, but staying awake until you could see the first rays of the sun over the hills. If you had trekked through the longest night of the year, if you had faced the worst the darkness could bring, and came to stand victorious in the morning light with your fire still burning, then you had proven to the demons of the night that you could outlast them. Each year on the night of the winter solstice, it is my personal ritual to keep a flame burning from sunset until sunrise. Even if it is only a single candle, to keep a light glowing through the longest night of the year, a beacon to any who might be wandering lost. Some of my ancestors lived in Lapland, north of the Arctic Circle, where it literally went several weeks before they saw sunrise. I am glad I never have had to endure more than a single night. You may not want to think it. I know it sounds appalling. But we must hold back the darkness, or death will come a-calling. If we can hold back the darkness with a single candlelight, we can make it through the winter. There are greener times in sight. If we can hold back the winter, if we can keep a fire burning, we can make it through the cold. Soon the sun will be returning. If we can hold back the cold with a fire warm and bright, we can celebrate our lives on winter's longest night. If we can hold back the snow and the storms that rage outside, the days start getting longer, the darkness will subside. If we can hold back the darkness, if we can face all that we fear, we can make it through the winter. Spring is almost here. I appreciate your indulging me with these several minutes of your time. I hope this has proven at least an entertaining distraction. Most of all, I hope that something I have said may prompt you to think for yourself.
All right, welcome back. I'm the Fat Friendly Agnostic Demon. We're here reading the book of Genesis and telling the story the way it was supposed to be told. If you've been around lately, things have been fucking spicy. Like a lot of incest and a lot of weenie cutting and just, God being a general dick all around. And that's been great. And I can promise you it's going to continue to be spicy. So I'm fucking glad you're here. We left off at Genesis 21:8 last time, so I think what we should do is pick up at Genesis 21:9 because that's what we always fucking do. But this time we get to start the spiciness off with a but. So Genesis 21:9, but Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar making fun of Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, "Get rid of that servant and her son. He is not going to share the family inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it." This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But God told Abraham, "Do not be upset over the boy and your servant wife. Do just as Sarah says, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted." Yeah, fuck the bastard boy and the servant that you guys impregnated on purpose. Fuck 'em. Your new son is he's gonna be the one through whom your descendants will be counted. Genesis 21:13, but I will make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son because he is also your son. So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food for the journey, and strapped a container of water to Hagar's shoulders. He sent her away with their son. She walked out into the wilderness of Beersheba, wandering aimlessly. Completely rational. There you go. Take your food and your water. The wilderness is right there. Genesis 21:15. When the water was gone, she left the boy in the shade of a bush. Then she went and sat down by herself about 100 yards away. I don't want to watch the boy die, she said, as she burst into tears. Then God heard the boy's cries. Thank God he heard the boy's cries. I was beginning to wonder if he was going to intercede. Then God heard the boy's cries, and the angel of God called to Hagar from the sky, Hagar, what's wrong? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy's cries from the place where you laid him. Yeah, you laid him down to die, and he's sitting there about to die, and God's like, fuck it, I guess. So Genesis 21:18, go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants. Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw well. She immediately filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness of Paran, just as Baloo was with the man-child. God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness of Paran. He became an expert archer, and his mother arranged a marriage for him with a young woman with, I mean, it would make sense if it was with young women, but in this case, so far, with a young woman from Egypt. About this time, Abimelech came from with Pichol, his army commander, to visit Abraham. It is clear that God helps you in everything you do, Abimelech said. Swear to me in God's name that you won't deceive me, my children, or my grandchildren. I have been loyal to you. So now swear that you will be loyal to me and to this country in which you are living. Abraham replied, all right, I will swear to it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech and complained to Abimelech about a well that Abimelech's servants had taken violently from Abraham's servants. This is the first I have heard of it, Abimelech said, and I have no idea who is responsible. Why didn't you say something about this before? Then Abraham gave sheep and oxen to Abimelech, and they made a treaty. Get the fuck out of here, Abimelech, pretty much. And the funny shit is like, he shysted those sheep and oxen off of Abimelech in the first place. Just 21:28. But when Abraham took 7 additional ewe lambs and set them off by themselves, Abimelech asked, why are you doing that? Abraham replied, they are my gift to you as a public confirmation that I dug this well. So ever since that place has been known as Beersheba, well of the oath. That because that was where they had sworn an oath. Oh, is that right? Oh God, don't let that one be where I lose my place. 21:32. After making their covenant, Abimelech left with Pichol, the commander of his army, and they returned home to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and he worshipped the Lord, the eternal God, at that place. Ooh, I don't know if it's been that grand about this God figure yet. Eternal God. He's eternal. Okay. I mean, cool. Genesis 21:34, and Abraham lived in Philistine country for a long time. Later on, God tested Abraham's faith, because he does that all the time. It's like he does not fucking trust anybody. God tested Abraham's faith and obedience. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied. Here I am. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will point out to you. And fuck. Oh man, gotta love it whenever God comes and gets involved, because he's just so creative. Like, you send to Moriah and sacrifice him. I want to smell the burnt offering on a mountain. Make sure it's on a mountain so it's close to me so I can smell that shit. Genesis 22:3. The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood to build a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place where God had told him to go. On the 3rd day of the journey, Abraham saw the place in the distance. Stay here with the donkey, Abraham told the young men. The boy and I will travel a little further. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. Abraham, you fucking liar. See, they pretend to be all righteous. Like, these are the people or whatever that are arbiters of God, that God are like buddy with. But he's a fucking liar. And not only is he lying, that I mean, he's going to sacrifice his son so God can smell the. We're just going to continue. He's lying to his servants because he says that they will come right back. And I mean, Genesis 22:6, Abraham placed the wood for a burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the knife and the fire. As the two of them went on together, Isaac said, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "We have the wood and the fire," said the boy, "but where's the lamb for sacrifice?" "God will provide a lamb, my son," Abraham answered, and they both went on together. I would have been fucking get the shit out of there. My dad crazy. All right, when they arrived, Genesis 22:9, when they arrived at the place where God had told Abraham to go, he built an altar and placed the wood on it. Then he tied Isaac up and laid him on the altar over the wood. And Abraham took the knife and lifted it up to kill his son as a sacrifice to the Lord. Just... Genesis 22:11. At that moment, the angel of the Lord shouted to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes," he answered, "I'm listening." "Lay down the knife," the angel said. "Don't listen to God. He's a fucking crazy motherfucker." Oh, he's like, no, that's not what it says. "Lay down the knife," the angel said. "Do not hurt the boy in any way. For now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld even your beloved son from me." Some like gangster shit, you know, like Casino, like Godfather. Like, this testing shit. Get me one step closer. All right, Genesis 22:13. Yeah, so the angel spared Abraham's son's life because Abraham was ready to stab him. And I don't think, you know, you would think you'd just want to keep reading after all that because of how blessed it was. I mean, it was exciting, but it was just so fucked. It was literally fucked. You have to agree that was fucked. Get the fuck out of here.
On a lot, and I was like, what am I drinking for? And I think it was back when I was trying to start a YouTube channel. I used to drink, and I looked at those old videos, and I was just drunk in every single one of them because I wasn't comfortable. And then I'm there in this point, and I'm like, what am I drinking for? And then I realized I don't even like drinking, like, because the only reason I was drinking was to go do things with people. And the things I like to do, like sit at home, draw, watch Star Trek, and do all that nerdy type stuff I like to do, didn't require that I had to be drunk to enjoy it. So I slowly but surely stopped drinking. And by doing so, I was not prepared for what the drinking had been masking for probably about 6 or 7 years or so, probably longer than that. My math isn't really that great at this point in time, but hey, it was a substantial amount of years of drinking before not drinking. And that whole drinking period, I ignored everything. I thought I was mentally sound. I thought I knew who I was and what at 25, I said, I know who I am, baby. I'm focused, mental, everything's on together. Once that drinking left, and all that anxiety I've been holding back and all that junk just showed itself back up, baby. And there it was. And there I was, not being able to answer phone calls or a text message to make my heart race, or just going into a grocery store or have to sit in the car and hype myself up to get out, to get into a store. And I would make a beeline for what I need and get out. You know the whole routine. You go on the aisle, you see something you want. Somebody's either in front of it or too close or in the aisle. And you decide, you know what? I don't even need it that much. And you going on your way. And like, it was just, I was making all the I had to do all these excessive things it was just a very, very tough time. Not too tough, but it was tough. And not drinking did not help it. But not drinking also helped me realize what was going on with me in terms of the weird rituals I was doing, in terms of like, I don't split poles when I walk. And it's not out of superstition. It's just out of, it just, I know, like, it started when I was young, when somebody kid told me, hey, you split poles is bad luck, and me saying, no, it ain't. So I spent the whole day splitting poles, and I end up spinning out in the truck and almost going off the road. And I was like, oh snap, maybe something. And then I completely forgot about it throughout those years of drinking. And once I came towards the latter part of not drinking, it started resurfacing, and I found myself not being able to split poles. And I wasn't thinking of nothing supernatural about it. It was just more so, if I split it and I walk, I just felt this gut wrenching feeling in me, like I need to go back. I need to go back. I need to go back and go back. And people know I would do that. If you split a pole with me, I would turn around and go back around the pole just to say, oh, that don't count. I went back around the pole. And people know that I just got on autopilot, and I would just follow people around, just split. Just getting close up to them, and people try for funs and giggles and make me split poles, but they know I was very vigilant. Like, to get me to split a pole was damn near impossible, because I had my ritual down to a science. And I didn't even know half the things I was doing was anxiety, you know. With those of you anxiety, phone calls are probably some of the worst things you can ever have in your lifetime. Like I said, I hate phone calls and I hate text messages, but I love text messages better than I like phone calls, because at least with the text messages, I can have a breather between my response. Because if I get a text message, I'll look at it, flip it down, and I'll say, okay, I'll come back to you in about an hour when I'm ready for this. I will do that. A phone call, I may answer, I may not, depending on where I'm at. But if I answer, I hate being on the phone, because it's just, every time I get off a phone call with somebody, I am sweating. Even to this day, I sweat. It's very tough. Like, just the other day, I was at this food truck, and I was with my wife, and was going to get the food, and the dude who owned the food truck is so nice. He was so eager to talk to me. I had my Golden Girl shirt on, and he was talking. He said, hey, nice shirt. And then I said, oh, not ready for this. And I just quickly said, I want those nachos. And I told my wife, all right, I'll be in the car with the kid while she waited for the food. And she's so used to it. She already knew. He came at me too fast, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to have that type of conversation. And I knew that his wife, they was nice people, and they was ready to talk to me and have a great conversation. I'm sure it would have been a fabulous conversation, but I panicked, and I had to get back in the car, because I said, no, I don't want to talk to these people. So don't get me wrong. I'm still in the midst of the battle, but I'm here to tell you, there's a war raging in you. I don't know what they got to do with you, but yeah. So it was weird things like that. And also, the disassociation. like I always wonder why, when my grandma died, and I had my grandma died, and I had to speak at her funeral, and it was only right that I do. This woman raised me. She was practically my mother and or father, which whenever my mom played. Well, she was one of my parents that raised me. And I remember right before I was going up, sweaty under the arms like no tomorrow, good, stomach turning into bubbles. And that's classic anxiety for anybody at large crowds. But that feeling, I have that feeling at that moment, and also just regular fucking moments. But I remember going up there, and boom, that's it. That's it. That's all she wrote on that. I went up there. I remember saying the first few things. The next thing I know, I was ending it, and I was walking down, and everybody was having a smile on their face, and they said I did a really good job. And I, to this day, cannot remember, unless I look at the paper, which I went off script on. I have no recollection of that moment. It's like I remember it, but I remember it from like another person. Like, that ain't me doing this. Like, only thing I remember from being up there is not being present in my body, but kind of looking at myself and not. So I don't really remember what I said, but it was great. So it was good. So there's that. But that was and I think that was probably one of the catalysts for me to seek help, because at this time I was done drinking. I may have a drink or two throughout the year, but I was done. Like even now I'm done. I just don't have I still have a thirst for it, because whenever my anxiety's up, I think about drinking, because I know what it can do for me. I know the power it wills and what it can do for me. And I know that it's dangerous if I continue drinking, because I was watching some guy on YouTube and he was talking about his drinking addiction and how he became an alcoholic. I said, oh, snap, son, I'm on that road. Let me get off. So I hopped off the road, and now I'm just, this road's a little bumpy, but I'm riding that bad boy. It's tough. You find yourself having a battle between, do I go to the new Kroger's or the Kroger's I always go to? Because the new Kroger's is right next to the store you need to go to as well, but it's a new Kroger's. And if you go inside the new Kroger's, then all those people are going to say, get out of our new Kroger's. You don't belong here. See, that's what happens. And that's what happens to me. Long story short, I ended up going to the new Kroger's, but buddy, it was a test of my fortitude to get to go to this new Kroger's. And I know it sounds silly, but in that moment, it felt like a real decision, like a real tough decision to make. New Kroger's or old Kroger's? New Kroger's or old Kroger's? But I did it. I went there. I went to the new Kroger's, and I made a name for myself there. The people cheered for me. They did. They didn't cheer for me. I left out. They didn't even notice me. I was just another person that goes to Kroger's like anybody else does in this world. But I bounced back. You want to know what the most funniest thing about my anxiety in the time where everybody's hyping up police brutality against black men and things like that? You would think that none of my anxiety scenarios has ever played out with me being killed by a police officer, but I do. I do have this irrational fear about buying a custom license plate, because if I buy the custom license plate, maybe there is a serial killer who decides his victims based on that custom license plate. And it also includes decals, anything identifying on your car. I don't know why, I just can't do it, because I just don't want nothing. I know it sounds weird. I know, but that's just where my head's at. And I'm still working through that. Like every time I'll go to the license, I'm going to get me a custom license plate. I ain't going to let that serial killer stop me. And then I'll start typing in, like, I'll be telling myself it's irrational. It's no serial killer. Then right when I get ready, it's like, but what if? And I'm right, but what if? Better safe than sorry. But again, I've never had the anxiety of police killing. And I just got pulled over like 2-3 weeks ago. No anxiety there. It's weird. But I manage and I maintain. Now, what happened to make me seek help was one night I was at the house with the wife and at the time my one daughter, and we're chilling, and I'm in my little office doodling, doing what I do, drawing. And I'm at my ultimate hermit stage at this point. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, I felt like a jolt, like right in my heart area. And I'm like, hey man, you're a little chunky monkey, dude. You're a little chunky. I had hypertension before. And I'm like, is that a heart attack right there? Like, nah, it ain't. I just came back. You on them BP pills. You good, dog. And then I said, you know what? Then my palms start sweating. I'm like, clammy palms. Oh no. So is it hot in here? Starting to sweat. And then I hopped on Google and looked at all the symptoms for a heart attack, and I said, "Oh man, I'm getting all the symptoms right here, man. I think I'm going through a heart attack right now." And then I told myself, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Because I had been to the ER before for what I thought was a heart attack, but I didn't know that it was a panic attack until after this time I went to the ER. So I'm like, "You didn't have one, you tripping. Just chill out, bro. Chill out." So I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna lay down. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need to lay it down a notch." So I lay down, and right when I close my eyes to relax, I'm like, what if I die in my sleep and my kids and my wife have to find me? So I hop up and I'm pacing in the room like, okay, you're not having a heart attack. And I'm like, but then I hear that, I'm like, maybe I am a heart attack. But I'm like, man, this is a really long heart attack. But then again, I walk to my wife and I say, "Hey, I don't mean to alarm you or nothing, but I think I need to go to the ER. I might be having a heart attack." Now, she was comfortable in bed, chilling. She looked at me like, and she got up and she got the kid ready and she took me to the ER, man. She's a writer. She do things like that for me. So, Karen Rickshaw, if you're listening or watching, love you, boo. But so she took me there and I walked inside the ER and I walked up to the reception area and I leaned in on the dude who was behind the desk and said, "Hey, I don't mean to disturb you or nothing, but I think I'm having a heart attack. I got this pain in my arm and my heart right here." He said, oh, okay. So he went back, told somebody. A couple seconds later, somebody came and got me, put me in a wheelchair, wheeled me to the back, and they start doing the things that they do, running the things that they run on you. And like midway through all that, I felt myself relaxing, thinking like, "Oh snap, I feel perfectly fine. I'm not having a heart attack. Oh no." And then the anxiety set in. I'm like, "Oh snap, I done got these people up and about back here helping me. Well, at least I can do is let them finish running these tests on me." And next thing I know, I was inside a machine that was testing to see if I had a blood clot. And the whole time that machine was making this loud noise as it ran around my body, all I could hear was cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. So after that, I go in the back. The doctor come in. He said, "Hey man, you have the least likely possibility of having a heart attack." And I said, "Oh," I said, "but we can keep you in for observation." I figured he knew what was going on, but he didn't say nothing. I said, "No, I'll just go home." So I just logged out, got in the car, and went back home. And then weeks later, I got a bill in the mail for $5,000. So basically, I just went in there and said, "Hey, I'll pay you $5,000 if you just do nothing. If you just tell me I'm not dying." So that prompted me to go, "Hey man, something is going on." And then the thing that really pushed me over the edge, well, that should have pushed me on the edge, but I was already on the edge. But then I read that Will Wheaton thing he put out on Medium about his anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And reading that letter, I started crying. Yes, I started crying. And it wasn't like a boohoo sobby cry, but I was like, yes, that's it. That's exactly how I feel. So I encourage you, if you haven't read that Will Wheaton letter, read it. It is a beautiful piece of work. He put into words exactly how I had been feeling. Now the situation is something different. He has a different ritual than I did, but the feeling was the same. It's a great letter. I'll link it down below so y'all can check it out. So after I'm crying about that, and I'm thinking like, yep, I went and set up an appointment to see a therapist. And once I met my therapist, my psychiatrist, they set me up on Zoloft. And you know what? Everything's okay now. It was easy. I fixed the problem, solved it. There's no more anxiety for me, buddy. That is a lie. It's like somebody was asking me about it and they wanted how I deal with it. I take Zoloft, but at the same time, it's going to take a lot more than just taking the pill, at least from my perspective. I'm not a medical profession, but for me, the only way I can describe is, what do the pills make you feel like? For me, some people say they feel dead on the inside, like a zombie. Some days I do, but I know I can get out the car immediately when I get to a store now without second guessing it. Um, I remember the first time I went out after being on it, and we went to this Halloween thing, and it was so many people there, and I was having a blast. I was talkative, and the only way I knew, and the best place scenario, if you have like a partner or a friend or somebody else, they're the best people to ask, because I say ask because I'm a country terrible grammar person, but they're the best people to ask because they'll probably notice the change in you before you do. Because when I say, yeah, it's totally different. Like it was like, I was like, it felt great to be in the crowd and not think about the crowd, but just be around his move and just do what I do. And it felt great. It felt great. But but still, there's still more work to be done because I still have days where I've recently woke up from a panic attack by about 2-3 weeks ago. Woke up from that. I've had probably 1 or 2 panic attacks between starting that and now. So it's not like a cure-all, be-all, you know. I should be actively doing something I should not be doing, and I'm doing it now. I haven't talked to my therapist in like 2 months, and I know I should, but this is me being open with you about it. When I say it isn't the medicine and stuff isn't the be-all, because the reason I missed the tele appointment. And now it's like, oh snap, I forgot. And now the anxiety about, oh, what if I call her back? And, oh, you know what, you missed that appointment. I don't want to talk to you ever again. I know that's not how it was going to work, but I really need to schedule that appointment, which I'm probably going to say on this podcast that I'm going to do today. But let's be real. Am I going to do it today? Hopefully. But yeah, that's the thing. You got to put the work in, man. So this isn't no type of medical advice. I feel like I should say that just in case, because I know I spent a lot of my time trying to avoid the therapist by solving my issues by just only listening to YouTube videos. I said, no, let me go to a professional and get the diagnosis. For I be one of these people that just out here saying they got some type of disorder that they have not been diagnosed with, and nor are themselves qualified to even diagnose themselves with. I.e., those people who say they have OCD and all you doing is just putting things in the place you like them to be. But that's a whole different story for somebody else. But if you're curious about the Zoloft, I don't know about the any other SSIs or whatever. All I know is the best way I can describe how it makes me feel is if somebody was talking trash to you, but they're like way down the street talking trash. And so you can barely hear them. Occasionally you may hear them, but it's so far away, you don't care. You don't care. But when that person is right up in your ear, yeah, you trash, you ain't nothing. What you doing here? Those people don't like you. Go on, you stink. And you realize, holy snap, that person is me. Like I'm my own worst enemy. I realized that I am my enemy, and I have to fight myself. The evil, I can imagine there'd be an evil version of me, probably me without the beard. Trust me, you don't want to see me without the beard. That guy is terrible because the guy without the beard was the one running around here drinking and running amok. So bearded Tyler is the, I assume, the real me. I don't know who the real me is. Could be somebody else for all we know. But I don't know what I'm talking about, people. I'm just on here just rambling because, this is what Talking Yip Yap is all about. We don't have any idea what we're going to talk about. If I want to talk about the fact that I got anxiety, or the fact that I think that, hey, at some point in time, mankind will be able to marry and love dogs. I'm messing with you. It's coming sooner than you think. But yeah, so hey, if you deal with anxiety, hey man, get that help. Get that help. Don't be like me. Well, don't be like how I used to be. Get help. Talk to somebody. Get it. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Everybody got it. I look online, everybody around here stressing about something. So you don't want to be lost in the matrix. Well, that's where I'm going to end it at. I don't know if I made any type of sense. I hope that this somehow helps someone to find that courage to step out on that ledge and say, hey, I got mental health issues and I need to deal with that. Because one of my main, and also one of my biggest motivations I didn't even mention is the fact that I have 2 little girls and I'm trying to be the best I can for them. So remember, people, sometimes life will throw you a curveball, but know that if you pray about it, nothing will happen. But if you get up, do something might happen, but it may not. You know, life is a game of chances. You never know what might happen. You just got to roll with the dice and you just got to get it, you know? And also, watch out. There's a custom license plate serial killer on the loose. It's not, but I feel like he is. He's probably watching this podcast right now thinking like, I'll get you. I will get you, Tyler. You and your little car too. I don't know. See. And the thing is, the anxiety is right now, just a disclaimer before I wrap this out. Currently, right now, my anxiety is on probably about 8. It's going down, but it's probably about 8. My palms are sweaty. I thought I was having a heart attack, but the anxiety real set in later today when I replay what I said in this video after I edited it to put it up to never listen to it again, because hey, I live in conversations from decades ago, so I have to just boop up and gone. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment down below wherever you listen this to at. I know it's available on Spotify. I keep saying Spotify. It's Spotify. And it's available on some other places. Links down below to see where it's all going to be. And yeah, we still in here and we're still doing things. And if anybody wants to be on the podcast, let me know, man. I'm willing to talk to anyone. That sounds so desperate, but I'm desperate.
I thought it would be a good time to talk about the topic and why there doesn't seem to be any good reason for a deity to exist. And I find this can be a hard subject for theists who want to get as far away from their specific deities as possible. Which makes sense, because in a world increasingly defined by science and technology, room for a god to be hiding in some small crevice behind a rock diminishes. Thus, the path of argument normally starts with Jesus, but if they talk to a skeptic long enough, it's funny how much the conversation begins to switch to, can we really know anything at all? I mean, do we even know if we're just brains and vats? Which is the kind of arguments we get from snake oil salesmen. Nowhere at any time in a debate on God has any theist given evidence that could pass empirical testing. Instead, we're left with texts from thousands of years ago with prophets doing the equivalent of magic tricks. Moses parting the Red Sea, Jesus coming back from the dead, and Muhammad riding over the moon on a horse. Sweet, that's a 3-act show. Even includes a pony. You would think a deity or the creator of the universe would have an easier time communicating with his creations. Turning water into wine and conjuring zombies is neat, but what I really seek in a personal relationship is the person to be real. He seemed to love showing up thousands of years ago, but unless we can go on a date together, I'm going to have to turn the possibility of a God down. Instead, this nebulous, floating consciousness seems to be a plot device created by humans who are still trying to figure the world out. I'm sure the world's holy books, if carefully mined, could have nuggets of metaphorical truth in them. However, the same could be said of any other book, including The Lord of the Rings, which I think has more wisdom than all of the world's religions combined. If we've made it this far, most theists will start to make deistic arguments like the Kalam cosmological argument for the existence of a God, which is a great public relations name because, to no one's surprise, it's not an argument for the existence of a God, but special pleading for a being to ignore causality. So are there any good reasons for a God to exist? Simple answer, no. But hey, if they want to change our mind, the lab is always open.
Hi guys, welcome back to Tam and Chico. This is Tam and my co-host Tony. Sorry.
We're going to be reacting to Frank Turek again today, and we have scariest verse in the Bible, and does God's love make him punish us?
So I hopped onto the wise and all-knowing Google.
Okay.
And they said, I just want to make sure it's right. It's that individuals before a certain age are given mercy on the things that they had done. And is there any scripture that relates back to this idea? And is there an age estimate, like, of when that ends?
It's Isaiah chapter 8, I believe, talking about before the boy knows his right from his left, the right and wrong. But it's a boy. We don't know the age. And I think it's probably going to be different for every person, right? Some people mature faster than others. Like for girls, the age of accountability is 3. For boys, it's 37.
The second part to my question is if we don't know the age of accountability, is someone that maybe commits suicide or has an abortion before that age given mercy, but someone after punished or needs to repent more than the person before that?
All sin separates us from God, but not all sin is the same.
Okay. So here's how I understood it. There's kind of like, I don't even know where this rule came from because it's kind of stupid. If you're born into sin, you're genetically flawed from the get-go. But there's kind of this wiggle room where, like, if you're an innocent child and you stab someone to death, but you didn't really know that was wrong because you didn't have knowledge of good and evil, except for apparently you do because it's written on your heart. There's kind of some leeway, some wiggle room where, oh, he didn't know, it's okay. So if that kid dies, you know, a week later or whatever, then his innocence of not understanding the moral implications of his act, he's kind of forgiven.
That was actually something made up by the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
so that's an interesting thing.
There's greater commands, there's greater sin, there's lesser punishment and greater punishment. We have to get this idea out of our minds that all sin is the same. It's not. Obviously, if you murder somebody, just from our own common sense, you know, you're going to go to jail for life, maybe. You're not going to go to jail for life if you jaywalk, unless you're in California and you're a Christian. Sorry. When you say mercy, do you mean God's mercy or do you mean the people, like the U.S. judicial system mercy? What do you mean?
God's mercy, like being able, like seeing that as a sin and like the division between like going to hell or
Yes.
heaven.
Well, God knows. In fact, if you look at Luke chapter 12, Jesus is talking about, he's telling a parable to tell people what it's going to be like when he comes back.
The most tap dancey of the tap dance. No. This is the pastor equivalent to. So this one guy told me that guy told him whose brother told that guy's sister who wrote it in a letter, stuck it in a bottle, sent it down the river. Yep. I'm sorry, I get pissed off just looking at this man. I just staring at him.
Who had greater knowledge and did evil will be beaten with many blows. The people who had lesser knowledge and did evil will be beaten with fewer blows. And he says, to whom much is given, much will be required. That's one of the scariest verses in the entire Bible. Because in America, we've been given so much.
When you're giving a lot of information about morality, because let's be honest, the older you are, the more you understand social and moral contracts and all that stuff. Here's the thing. Why are we giving, like, if we're a Christian, like, why would we tell people about God and the morality of it? You get punished because you're sinless, you have sin regardless. But if you do sin and you weren't really taught about it, then you kind of get off the hook because no one really ever told you. It's kind of like, why have kids if they're going to be sinners? Like, why even teach them about morality if they're going to sin? Like, why not try to hide them from any knowledge of God, so then when they finally die, that they get to heaven and then like, oh God, I didn't know, nobody ever told me this, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to punish you. That's hard or whatever.
Rebuttal every time to this, you know it. It's 2 words. Free will. That's their rebuttal every time, and they say God didn't want robots without even thinking about the fact that if we go to heaven, there's no free will.
They scream free will while simultaneously screaming, I'm only going to obey God because he told me to. Robot beep boop beep beep boop. It's like, what?
There is free will within the Christian theology. It's just not possible. You can't have an all-loving, all-knowing, all omnipresent, all of those things, all the omni words, and still have free will. It is not possible.
I don't think you can have free will even without a God. That's just my opinion. I'm hard determinist. I think every choice, every desire, every preference you've ever had has been completely manipulated outside of your control. Whether it was your parents,
I get that.
Your nurture, the environment around you. We take in information and then we take.
That was supposed to unmute. Thanks for hanging out with us in the turning up before the turn up. And we'll get started here in about 15, 20 minutes, something like that. So come show support for all the new creators. It's going to be a blast tonight. And we'll try to finish that playlist later so everybody gets a little love. And Atheist Cats, thank you for remembering to remember your membership. Holla at your boy. Miami Vice Oz, yes. Coming out swinging tonight. No pun intended. Don't do that anymore. But no, we'll see you guys here in a few. Like I said, go have a little potty break, and yeah, go have a little potty break. Get your drink, and we'll see you in a minute.